Hey everybody, Bill, the Kansas Flamingo Chef. Barkley and I are gonna make lunch. He's been watching me get this set up, and he's kind of losing his mind. So we'll just let him go over here and do his thing. All right, so today I'm gonna make a salmon and shrimp in a mustard cream sauce. I know it sounds complex, it really is extremely easy. I made this for dinner the other night and posted a picture on my social media page. People went crazy and instantly were asking me, where's the recipe? So here's the recipe. Let's get started. It doesn't take very long. You only need one pan unless you're doing a vegetable with it. Obviously, you're going to do that separately. But let's take a look. As far as your ingredients, we're going to need a good sized skillet. Yeah, I've got my hard anodized skillet here. Green onions chopped. A fillet of skinless salmon. This is about a 5.5 ounce fillet. It's pretty good standard size. I've got some peeled and deveined raw Gulf shrimp. There's about a dozen of them here. You can really have as few or as many as you want. I do recommend Gulf shrimp as opposed to the white shrimp that comes out of the farms in Vietnam. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just don't like the flavor. It doesn't have the depth that real wild-caught shrimp does. We need butter. I've got my own homemade butter. Extremely easy to do. If you'd like to see how to do it, I'll make you a video. Heavy whipping cream. You don't need a lot, but you do need it. Some Dijon mustard. I prefer Grey Poupon, but you can use whatever you like. And then we've got our seasonings. Our seasonings are going to be, I'm using Kinder's or Kinder's or however you pronounce it, the blend. This stuff is awesome. If you don't have some in your cabinet, you should really pick it up because you can use it for everything. It's salt, pepper, and garlic all together. It's absolutely perfect for about 90% of the things you're going to cook. I've also got some Jamaican curry powder. Now, you can use any curry powder in the world. I just happen to like the Blue Mountain Country Jamaican curry powder. Don't need a lot of it. It's just going to bring out the depth of this. You also need a little Greek seasoning. You can use Cavender's, which I use most of the time. Today I'm going to use this McCormick Greek seasoning, and the reason is it's more chopped than it is completely emulsified. So it's going to get a nicer look. That's all that's involved in this. Let's do it. I'm going to start by turning on the pan to medium-high heat. Let that start to warm up. As that happens, I'm going to take about a tablespoon of butter. And one of the reasons I like homemade butter is it just is a better consistency, and it only has in it what I want in it. No additives, no colors, just pure cream and a little bit of salt. So I'm just going to coat my pan with butter and let that melt down. And it's going to look like there's a lot of butter. That's okay, because you're basically frying the fish in the way we're going to saute this. It's traditional French butter cooking, saute. I'm going to move that out of the way. We're going to let the butter start to work down. As it does, we're going to add just a tiny bit of curry powder. And when I say a tiny bit, I literally mean just sprinkle it in a pan. That's all you need, and I just made a mess. We'll clean it up. All right, so we're going to roll this curry powder in with the butter as it melts down. We'll get that nice color going on the bottom. Okay. As that starts to happen, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of the blend, salt, pepper, and garlic, and sprinkle that across the bottom of the pan as well. Okay? And move that around. This starts to smell so good, it'll make you crazy. At this point, as you're starting to get some steam coming off the butter, it's time to put the fish in. So just go ahead and lay your fish in either side down, it makes no difference. I generally lay it what's called fillet side down. So this vein that you see here, which would be the vein side attached to the skin, is side up, because we want to start with the side down that we're going to serve up on the plate. Hope that makes sense. It will when I show you at the end. Barkley's gonna clean that bowl, I have a feeling. All right, I'm gonna turn my heat up to high because I want this to start sauteing. As it does, we're gonna saute this fish until we flip it. When we flip it, we're gonna add the shrimp and we're gonna add a little bit of the Greek seasoning. So there's no reason for you to sit here and watch the pot boil. I'll be right back. It's only been cooking for about a minute, but I want you to see what's going on as far as the saute. You can see how the bubbles are kind of forming. You can probably hear it. And you can see the salmon is starting to get a little bit of coloration around the sides. Now all I'm gonna do is move it around in the pan so the butter goes over all of the fish. This is gonna go for about 3 minutes for me on one side. Then I'm gonna turn it over. And when you turn it over, all you need to do is take a pair of tongs and just lay it over on its side. Don't try to get really pretty with this. Just turn it easy so you don't split the fish in half. As that cooks on this side, we're going to do the same thing, just moving the butter around. And you're going to see the butter is going to start to brown a little bit. What's actually browning is the fat coming off the fish and the garlic. Don't worry, it is not burning. I promise you, it's not burning. You can turn the heat down a little bit, but you don't need to go nuts. So as your fish is about a little over half done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my shrimp. And I'm just going to lay it right beside the fish in the pan. And then I'm going to sprinkle in some of this Greek seasoning over both parts. Okay. You could also use Old Bay here if you prefer a little different flavor. You could just use salt and pepper. You could use Italian seasoning. Pretty much any seasoning you really like, as long as you don't go crazy putting too much seasoning in here. Now I am going to add a little salt at this point. Because Gulf shrimp need a little salt. Okay? And we're just going to keep working this around in this butter and let that fish and shrimp cook. And the shrimp will roll up on themselves as they cook. And if you see that you've got one side cooking and not the other side, you take your tongs and flip your shrimp over. I don't recommend trying to flip this pan because you've got hot grease butter here and that could make a real mess. Not to mention even possibly a fire. All right, so our shrimp are pretty much done. The salmon is about 3/4 done. And you can move that back and you can see it's almost cooked. I'm going to turn the salmon over one more time, but now it's a little more brittle. So I'm going to take a spatula and turn it over against the pan. You'll see you have a crusting going on with the salmon. That's exactly what I want. And I'm going to let this cook for just a couple more minutes. In the meanwhile, I'm going to get a plate to set my fish on. All right. Okay. So all we're going to do here is we're going to take the fish and the shrimp out of the pan. Push it off the heat, turn the heat completely off, and just pull your fish out first. I'm going to turn it over like so and try not to break it, but I did anyway. It's all right, still fine. And then we're going to get the shrimp and just kind of lay them onto the piece of fish. I know you can't see this, I'm sorry. Move the angle down so you can see what I'm doing. Okay? So there is the base of the dish, right there. That's it. The fish and the shrimp set up, ready to go. We're going to set it off to the side. It's going to cool for a minute while we make the sauce. So in this pan, we're going to remove about 90% of this grease. So you just take it over to the sink or to a container and just pour off most of that butter So you have basically an empty pan with still some spice in it. Now I'm going to set my heat at about medium, and I'm going to take some heavy whipping cream, and I'm going to cover the base of the pan. Then, as we try to get this so you can see, we're going to let that cream start to cook. As it does, I'm going to take some Dijon mustard and get myself a nice spoonful and just set it in there. And there's not a lot left in this jar, so I'm just going to go ahead and use what I can get out of it. Okay. Now, we'll take a whisk and just whisk this together. Like so. Okay. That's going to cook for a second. We're going to take some of our green onion, put into that sauce. In fact, I'm just going to use all of this. Okay. Whisk it up again. Now what we're trying to do is keep this moving just enough it doesn't scorch. But at the same time, I want to thicken it. So you're watching the consistency to make sure that you get where that nice sauce-like consistency, not just cream. If you want to test it, take your spatula, move the sauce across the pan, and you're just folding it into itself. At the same time, you're going to get your nice even color distribution. This only takes about a minute, maybe a minute and a half. That sauce is done. So we're going to turn the heat off. And I'm going to move the camera over here so you can see what I'm going to do next. Get this stuff out of my way. Okay. Now we're simply going to fold this sauce over our fish. Here we go. Okay. Let's back this up a little bit so you can see there's the fish. All right. And we're just going to roll this over it. Like so. That's it. It's done. That, I promise you, is a phenomenal dish. That even if you think you don't like fish, you might be really pleasantly surprised by this. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think. If there's a dish you'd like me to cook or something you'd like me to try, by all means reach out to me. Like, share, and subscribe. That's the best thing you can do for me. I'm not trying to make money. I'm trying to make friends and have fun. So by all means, let's have fun, eat fabulous, have a great day.